"This is Detective Rachel Martinez," Sheriff Grayson said. "She's our lead crime scene investigator." Rachel stood, pulling off her latex gloves, and for a moment, sympathy flickered across her professional mask. "Dr. Carter," she said, "I know this must be incredibly difficult. The crawl space is approximately 3 feet deep and runs the entire length of this room. It was completely sealed, invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. Someone built a hiding place here, under your bedroom. Someone who had access to this house, who knew this room, who could work on it without raising suspicion." Rachel reached down and lifted a clear evidence bag from beside the opening. Inside was a small purple backpack, faded but unmistakable. Olivia's knees went weak. She knew that backpack. Emma had gotten it for her 9th birthday, had carried it everywhere in the months before she disappeared. It had her initials embroidered on the front in gold thread. Their grandmother had done that, making each item special, making each twin feel unique even though they shared the same face. "Is this your sister's?" Rachel asked, though the answer must have been obvious from Olivia's reaction. "Yes," Olivia managed to say. "She had it that night. We assumed whoever took her had taken the backpack too." Rachel set down the first bag and picked up another. This one contained a nightgown, pink fabric with white stars scattered across it. Olivia had owned an identical one. Their grandmother had given them matching nightgowns the Christmas before Emma vanished. "She was wearing that," Olivia whispered. "When I went to sleep that night, Emma was wearing that nightgown." The sheriff and Rachel exchanged a look that Olivia couldn't read. "There's more," the sheriff said quietly. "We found a notebook, written in a child's handwriting." He pulled out his phone and showed her a photograph of a page. The words were careful and rounded, the kind of writing a 10-year-old might produce. But the message made Olivia's blood run cold. He said if I told anyone, he would hurt Olivia. He said this is our secret game, and I have to hide in the special place when he says so, or Olivia will get hurt instead. Olivia stared at the words, unable to process what they meant. Emma had written this. Emma had known her abductor. Emma had been hiding in this crawl space, in this room, while Olivia slept just feet above her. "The entries are dated," Sheriff Grayson said carefully. "They spanned several weeks before Emma disappeared. It appears your sister had been in that crawl space multiple times. That someone was coming into your room repeatedly. Someone she knew well enough not to scream." The room seemed to tilt around Olivia. Her vision tunneled. She reached out blindly for the wall to steady herself. "Someone was coming into our room," she said slowly, the realization settling over her like ice water. "While we slept. Someone Emma knew and trusted enough not to wake me." "That's one theory," Rachel said gently. "But Dr. Carter, the notebook mentions specific people. Names. We're going to need your help identifying them." Olivia forced herself to focus, to think like the psychologist she had trained to become rather than the traumatized child she had once been. "Who does she mention?" she asked. "Family members," the sheriff said. "People who had access to this house, to your bedroom." He paused, and in that pause, Olivia felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "Your father's name appears several times." The accusation hung in the air between them. Olivia felt a familiar defensiveness rising up, the instinct to protect, to deny. "My father loved Emma," she said. "He would never have hurt her." The grief almost killed him. "I'm not making accusations," Sheriff Grayson said. "But we have to follow the evidence. Your father passed away 6 years ago. Is that correct?" "Cancer," Olivia confirmed. "And your mother?" "Early onset Alzheimer's. She's in a memory care facility in Indianapolis. She doesn't even remember having 2 daughters anymore." "There were other people who had access to this house," the sheriff continued. "Your uncle, Gerald Carter. He lived here for a while, didn't he?" The name sent a chill through Olivia that she didn't fully understand. Uncle Gerald, her father's younger brother, who had stayed at the farmhouse off and on during his frequent periods of unemployment. He had been there the night Emma disappeared. She remembered that much. The police had questioned him extensively. "Where is Gerald now?" Olivia asked. "Still local," the sheriff said. lives in a trailer park about 15 miles from here. We'll be bringing him in for questioning today. Is there anything you remember about him? Sheriff Grayson asked. Anything that seemed inappropriate or made you uncomfortable as children? Olivia searched her memories, but Gerald had been mostly a background presence in her childhood. A quiet man who worked odd jobs and spent most of his time watching television in the spare room. She and Emma had been slightly afraid of him, she remembered now, but she had thought that was just because he was so stern. He barely spoke to them, rarely smiled. He was strange, Olivia admitted, kept to himself. But I never saw him do anything wrong. Did he ever come into your bedroom? The sheriff pressed. Not that I remember, Olivia said, but I was 10 years old, and apparently I slept through someone repeatedly entering our room and taking my sister. So clearly, my memories aren't reliable. We'd like you to come to the station tomorrow morning, Sheriff Grayson said. You can review Emma's notebook in full. We'll go over everything we know so far. You might recognize details or names that we wouldn't catch. Olivia nodded, grateful for the reprieve, for a night to process what she had learned before diving deeper into the horror. She took one last look at the hole in the floor, at the space where Emma had hidden in the darkness, too terrified to call out for the sister sleeping just above her. I was right there, Olivia whispered. 6 feet away. How did I not know? You were a child, Rachel said gently. Whatever happened here, it wasn't your fault. But as Olivia walked out of that house and back to her car, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had failed Emma in some fundamental way. For 33 years, she had believed her sister had been taken by a stranger in the night. Now she was learning that the truth was far worse. The Millbrook Motor Lodge hadn't changed since Olivia's childhood. The same faded brick, the same flickering neon sign advertising cable TV and air conditioning. She checked into a room on the second floor and stood at the window looking out over the small town where she had spent the first 10 years of her life. Millbrook had a population of just under 3,000 people. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where secrets should have been impossible to keep. Yet someone had kept the darkest secret of all for more than 3 decades. That night, alone in her motel room, Olivia couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Emma's careful handwriting. He said if I told anyone, he would hurt Olivia. Her sister had been protecting her, had endured something terrible to keep Olivia safe. And Olivia had slept through it all, blissfully unaware. She thought about the twin telepathy game they used to play, how they would lie in their beds after lights out and try to send thoughts to each other. Emma would think of a color or a number, and Olivia would try to guess. Sometimes she got it right, often enough that it felt like magic, like proof that they shared something deeper than DNA. Do you think we'll always be together? Emma had asked one night. Olivia could remember it clearly now, could hear her sister's voice across the decades. Always, Olivia had promised with the absolute certainty of childhood. We're twins. That means we're connected forever. But they hadn't been together forever. One November night, something had severed that connection, and Olivia had spent the last 33 years living with a phantom limb, a presence that never quite faded, a constant awareness that half of her was missing. Her phone buzzed just after midnight. Sheriff Grayson's name appeared on the screen. Olivia's heart raced as she answered. We brought Gerald Carter in for questioning 3 hours ago, the sheriff said without preamble. He lawyered up immediately, which is his right. But before his lawyer arrived, he said something you need to know. What did he say? Olivia asked, though dread was already pooling in her stomach. He said, and I quote, "You're wasting your time. The person who knows what happened to Emma is Olivia. She was there. She knows more than she's telling." The accusation hit Olivia like a physical blow. That's insane, she said. I was 10 years old. I was asleep. I know, the sheriff said. I'm not suggesting he's telling the truth. He might be trying to deflect attention from himself. But Olivia, I have to ask, is there any possibility, any at all, that you remember more than you've told us? That you witnessed something that night and your mind blocked it out? No, Olivia said automatically. But even as she spoke, she felt a tremor of doubt. She was a psychologist. She knew how trauma worked. She knew that the human mind could suppress unbearable memories, could hide them away in locked rooms that might not open for years or decades. "Get some rest," the sheriff said. "We'll talk more in the morning." But after he hung up, Olivia sat in the darkness of her motel room, trying to push past the barriers of time and fear to access that night in November 1993. She closed her eyes and tried to picture their bedroom, tried to imagine the sound of footsteps on old floorboards, a whispered voice, movement in the shadows. But there was nothing, just darkness, just the terrible feeling that everyone was right. She should remember. She should know. And her inability to recall was a failure that had cost Emma everything. The next morning, Olivia arrived at the Millbrook County Sheriff's Department at 8:30. The building occupied a corner lot on Main Street, its American flag snapping in the cold January wind. Sheriff Grayson met her in the lobby with a cup of coffee that she accepted gratefully. "I've set up Emma's notebook in the conference room," he said. "Take as much time as you need. We've already processed it for fingerprints. Most were too degraded to be useful after all these years, but you can handle it with gloves on." He led her down a hallway lined with photographs of past sheriffs and community service awards to a plain room with a long table. On that table sat a single evidence bag containing her sister's notebook. After the sheriff left, Olivia stood alone staring at that small spiral-bound notebook through its plastic barrier. The cover was decorated with stickers, rainbows, unicorns, smiley faces, the innocent decorations of a 10-year-old girl who still believed the world was fundamentally good. Olivia pulled on latex gloves with trembling hands and carefully removed the notebook from the bag. The pages were slightly yellowed, but otherwise well-preserved, protected by their decades in the sealed crawl space. She opened to the first entry, dated September 23, 1993, 8 weeks before Emma disappeared. The handwriting was unmistakably her sister's. September 23, 1993. "He came into our room again last night. He said I have to play the quiet game. And if I'm really quiet, I get to sleep in the special place where I'm safe. He says Olivia doesn't know about the special place because she sleeps too hard. He says this is our secret and I can never tell anyone, especially not Olivia, because then bad men would come and hurt her. I don't want Olivia to get hurt." I asked him why the bad men want to hurt us, and he said because we're special girls and bad men like to hurt special girls. He said he's protecting us, but only if I play the quiet game right. Olivia's hands shook as she turned the page. The entry was matter-of-fact, written in the voice of a child trying to make sense of something beyond her comprehension. There was no name mentioned, just he. September 30th, 1993. "I had to go to the special place 3 times this week. It's very dark under the floor, and I can hear Olivia sleeping above me. Sometimes I want to knock on the floor so she'll wake up, but I'm too scared. He said if I make noise the bad men will hear, and they'll come for Olivia. Last night he brought me crackers and juice because I was in the special place for a long time. He said I'm being so brave and good. He touches my hair and says I'm his favorite girl. I don't like when he touches my hair, but I stay quiet." Olivia felt physically ill. She forced herself to continue reading, page after page of Emma's careful documentation of her abuse. The person, still unnamed, had been grooming her sister, manipulating her with threats against Olivia, convincing her that hiding in the crawl space was protection rather than imprisonment. October 15th, 1993. "Uncle Gerald saw him taking me to the special place last night. I thought Uncle Gerald would tell Mom and Dad, but he didn't. He just went back to his room. The next day Uncle Gerald gave me a candy bar and said I should be a good girl and do what I'm told. I'm scared of Uncle Gerald now too. What if he's one of the bad men? But he didn't hurt Olivia, so maybe he's okay." So Gerald had known. He had witnessed what was happening and had done nothing, had actively encouraged Emma's silence. Olivia marked the page and continued reading, her horror mounting with each entry. October 28th, 1993. "He said soon I might have to go away for a little while to the special place that's even safer than under the floor. He said it's far away where the bad men definitely can never find me. I asked if Olivia could come too, and he got mad. He said Olivia doesn't need the special place because she's not in danger like I am. He said, I'm the one the bad men want. I'm scared to go to the special place. I asked if Mom and Dad would know where I am, and he said they can't know because they might accidentally tell the bad men. Everything has to be secret to keep everyone safe. The progression was clear now. Emma's abuser had been preparing her for an abduction, grooming her to go willingly, to believe she was protecting her family by disappearing. November 10th, 1993. I told him I don't want to play the quiet game anymore. I told him I think he's lying about the bad men. He got really scary. His face changed and his voice got mean. He said if I tell anyone, or if I stop playing the game, he won't be able to protect Olivia anymore, and it will be all my fault when the bad men take her. He said they'll do terrible things to her, and I'll have to live knowing I could have stopped it. Then he was nice again, and said he was sorry for scaring me. He brought me cookies, and said I'm such a good brave girl. I'm so confused. I want to tell Mom, but I'm scared he's telling the truth about Olivia. November 15th, 1993. Only 3 more days until I go to the special place. He showed me a picture of it. It looks like a little house in the woods. He said I'll be safe there and I can come home when the bad men give up looking for me. He said it might be a long time, maybe even years, but I have to be patient. I'm scared. I don't want to leave Olivia. We've never been apart even for one night. I tried to ask him if I could just tell Olivia goodbye, and he said absolutely not, because Olivia would try to stop me, and then the bad men would get her for sure. I wrote her a letter, but I'm going to hide it in my special box under my bed. Maybe someday she'll find it. Olivia's heart was racing. A letter. Emma had written her a letter. She immediately called for Sheriff Grayson, who appeared in the doorway within seconds. Emma wrote me a letter, Olivia said, her voice shaking. She says she hid it in a box under her bed. Did you find anything like that in the house? The sheriff's expression shifted. We found a small metal box in the crawl space with the other items, he said. We haven't opened it yet. Rachel wanted to process it carefully for any biological evidence. Come on. They went to the evidence room where Detective Martinez was cataloging items on metal shelves. The metal box from the crawl space, the sheriff said. We need to open it now. Rachel retrieved the box, a small decorative tin that might once have held cookies or candies. She photographed it from every angle before carefully opening the latch. Inside were several folded pieces of notebook paper, a dried flower pressed flat, and a photograph of Olivia and Emma at their 9th birthday party. Both girls were smiling, surrounded by cake and presents and the ordinary joy of childhood that seemed impossibly distant now. Rachel carefully unfolded the top letter with gloved hands. She read aloud in a quiet voice. Dear Olivia, if you're reading this, it means I had to go to the special place, and I didn't get to say goodbye. I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you everything, but he said I couldn't, because then the bad men would hurt you. I'm going away to keep you safe. Please don't be sad. He promised I can come home when it's safe. I need you to know that I love you more than anything. You're my best friend and my twin, and I miss you already even though I haven't left yet. When I come back we can play twin telepathy again and everything will be normal. Please take care of Mom and Dad. Don't let them be too sad. If something goes wrong and I don't come back, I need you to know it wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. He made me promise not to tell you. He is. The letter ended there, mid-sentence. Emma had been about to write the name of her abuser, and something had stopped her. Olivia stared at those 2 words. He is. So close to the truth. So close to giving them the answer they needed. She was going to tell me who it was, Olivia whispered. She was going to write his name, and something stopped her. Before anyone could respond, Sheriff Grayson's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, and his face went pale. He stepped out to take the call. And through the door, Olivia could hear his voice rising in anger and disbelief. When he returned to the evidence room, his expression was grim. That was one of my deputies, he said. Gerald Carter is dead. His neighbor found him an hour ago, hanging in his trailer. It's being ruled a suicide. Olivia felt the room spin around her. He killed himself, she said. Why now, after all these years? Because we were closing in on him, Rachel said quietly. Because he knew what we'd found in that crawl space, and he knew it was only a matter of time before we connected him to Emma's disappearance. But Olivia was shaking her head, staring down at Emma's unfinished letter. No, she said. Gerald was involved, but he wasn't the primary abuser. Emma distinguished between him and Uncle Gerald in her notebook. There were two of them, and one is still out there. The sheriff met her eyes, understanding dawning on his face. Your father, he said carefully. Olivia wanted to deny it, wanted to defend the man who had raised her, who had seemingly been destroyed by Emma's disappearance. But the evidence was mounting. Her father would have had unrestricted access to their bedroom, complete trust from his 10-year-old daughters. And predators often hid behind masks of respectability. We need to exhume his body, Rachel said. If he had physical contact with Emma the way the notebook suggests, there might be DNA evidence on her belongings even after all this time. Do what you need to do, Olivia heard herself say. I want the truth, whatever it is. Sheriff Grayson was already pulling up files on his laptop. I've been going through your father's financial records from 1993, he said. There are some irregularities. He had a separate savings account that your mother apparently didn't know about. In the 6 months before Emma disappeared, he made regular cash withdrawals. Small amounts, $500 or $800 at a time, but they add up to about $15,000 total. What was he doing with the money? Olivia asked. That's what we're trying to figure out, the sheriff said. No major purchases that we can find. No gambling debts. The money just vanished. Emma mentioned in her notebook that he showed her a picture of the special place. Olivia said slowly. A little house in the woods. What if he was building something? Or renting a property somewhere remote? We're pulling property records now, the sheriff said. Looking for any land purchases or rentals in his name. But if he was smart, he might have used a false name. A young deputy appeared in the doorway. Sheriff, the medical examiner is online too. Says it's urgent regarding the Gerald Carter autopsy. Grayson put the call on speaker. This is Sheriff Grayson, he said. What have you got for me? The medical examiner's voice came through with professional detachment. Sheriff, I've completed the preliminary examination of Gerald Carter. The cause of death is indeed asphyxiation consistent with hanging, but there are some concerning findings. There's bruising on his wrists and ankles that appears to have occurred perimortem, at or near the time of death. The pattern is consistent with restraints. Additionally, there are defensive wounds on his hands and petechial hemorrhaging that suggests a struggle. You're saying he didn't hang himself? Rachel asked. I'm saying the scene is inconsistent with a straightforward suicide, the examiner replied. Someone may have restrained him, possibly forced the ligature around his neck. I'm ruling this as suspicious pending further investigation. After the call ended, the three of them sat in silence. Finally, Sheriff Grayson spoke. Gerald knew something, he said. Someone wanted to make sure he never talked. The same someone who took Emma, Olivia said quietly. Your father died 6 years ago, Rachel pointed out. If he was the primary abuser, he couldn't have killed Gerald. Maybe your father had an accomplice, the sheriff suggested. Someone who helped him hide Emma. Someone who's still alive and still protecting the secret. Olivia's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw a text from an unknown number. When she opened it, her blood ran cold. The message contained a single photograph. A recent picture of Olivia herself, taken through the window of her motel room the previous night. She had been standing at the window looking out over the town, unaware that someone was photographing her from the darkness. Below the image were 3 words. Stop digging. Leave. She showed the phone to Sheriff Grayson, whose expression went dark. Someone's watching you, he said. Someone who knows you're here and what you're investigating. We need to get you somewhere safe. This person has already killed once, Rachel added. Possibly more. You could be in danger. But Olivia shook her head. I'm not leaving, she said. For 33 years, I've lived with not knowing what happened to my sister. Now we're finally close to the truth. I'm not running away. Then we put you in protective custody, the sheriff insisted. Move you to a safe house. Assign officers to watch you." Before Olivia could respond, her phone rang. The caller ID showed a local number she didn't recognize. She answered on speaker. "Hello," she said. There was breathing on the other end. Then a woman's voice, thin and wavering. "Is this Olivia Carter?" "Yes," Olivia said. "Who is this?" "My name is Patricia Henderson," the woman said. "I live at the farm next to your family's old place. The sheriff came to see me yesterday, asking questions about when your sister disappeared." Olivia remembered Mrs. Henderson vaguely. An elderly woman, even back in 1993, who lived alone in a farmhouse 2 miles down the road. "What can I do for you, Mrs. Henderson?" Olivia asked. "I didn't tell the sheriff everything yesterday," the woman said. "I was scared. But I've been thinking about it all night, and I can't keep quiet anymore. There's something you need to know about the night your sister vanished." Olivia's heart began to race. "What is it?" she asked. "I saw someone that night," Mrs. Henderson said. "I couldn't sleep, so I was sitting by my window around 2 in the morning. I saw a car pull up to your farmhouse. A dark sedan, headlights off. A man got out and went inside. About 20 minutes later, he came out carrying something wrapped in a blanket. He put it in the trunk and drove away." "Did you tell the police this in 1993? Sheriff Grayson demanded, leaning toward the phone. Mrs. Henderson's voice trembled. "I tried to," she said. "The next day, I called the station and told them what I'd seen. But the officer who came to take my statement was a man I didn't know. Said he was new to the department. He wrote everything down, then told me the car I described belonged to one of the deputies who'd been on patrol that night. He said I must have been confused, that I'd seen the deputy checking on the house after the missing person report came in. But that wasn't true," Sheriff Grayson said slowly. "Mrs. Henderson, what you saw was at 2 in the morning. Emma wasn't reported missing until after 6. There wouldn't have been any deputy checking the house at 2 a.m. "I know," the woman said. "That's why I've been so scared all these years. I knew what I saw, but when I tried to follow up a few days later, the department said there was no officer by the name he gave me working there. My statement had disappeared from the files. I thought maybe I was losing my mind, so I kept quiet." "What name did he give you?" the sheriff asked. "Deputy Martin," she said. "But there was no Deputy Martin." "Can you describe this officer?" Olivia asked. "Tall," Mrs. Henderson said. "Maybe 35 or 40 years old. Dark hair. He had a scar on his left hand, right across the knuckles. I remember because he kept flexing his fingers while he talked to me, like it hurt." Sheriff Grayson was already pulling up files on his laptop, scrolling through personnel records from 1993. After a moment, he stopped. His face went pale. He turned the laptop screen toward Olivia and Rachel. The photograph showed a man in his late 30s with dark hair and cold eyes. The name beneath read Deputy James Keller, 1990 to 1996. "He left the department in 1996, the sheriff said quietly. 2 years after Emma disappeared. His personnel file says he relocated to Illinois for family reasons." "Illinois," Rachel repeated, looking at Olivia. "Chicago is in Illinois." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Olivia understood. "This isn't random," she said. "He followed me. He's been watching me for years, waiting to see if I'd remember something. Waiting to see if I'd come back here and start asking questions." Sheriff Grayson was already on the phone, coordinating with Illinois authorities to bring Keller in for questioning. But Olivia's mind was reeling. For 33 years, the man who had taken her sister had been living in the same city as her, possibly watching her from a distance, making sure she never got too close to the truth. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. This time it was a photograph of her partner, Marcus, getting into his car in the parking garage of their Chicago apartment building. The image had been taken within the last hour. Below it, a message. "I warned you. Now someone you love will pay the price." Olivia's hands shook as she showed the phone to the others. "They're threatening Marcus," she said. "They know where we live. They're watching him right now." Rachel immediately made a call to Chicago PD, requesting immediate protection for Marcus. But the fear had already taken root. Olivia had thought she was hunting a ghost from the past. Now she understood that the danger was very much present. Within minutes, they received confirmation. Chicago police had located Marcus and brought him to a station for protection. He was safe. But the message was clear. Someone was willing to kill to keep Emma's secrets buried. Someone who had already murdered Gerald Carter. Someone who had been watching Olivia for years. And that someone was former Deputy James Keller. By late afternoon, the conference room at the Millbrook County Sheriff's Department had been transformed into a command center. A whiteboard covered one wall, filled with names and dates and connecting lines that formed a web of conspiracy spanning 3 decades. Rachel had printed photographs and arranged them chronologically. David Carter, Olivia's father. Gerald Carter, her uncle. James Keller, the deputy who had covered up evidence. And in the center, a school photo of Emma at age 10, her smile bright and trusting and utterly unaware of what was coming. Keller was working patrol the night Emma disappeared, Sheriff Grayson said. He would have been one of the first responders when your mother called 911, which gave him access to the scene before anyone else. He could have contaminated evidence, Rachel added, writing on the whiteboard. He could have redirected the investigation, planted false leads. He was in the perfect position. Current address on record is an apartment in Evanston, just outside Chicago, the sheriff said. I'm coordinating with Illinois authorities to bring him in for questioning. What if he runs? Olivia asked. Before the sheriff could answer, his phone rang. He listened for a moment. Then his face went dark. Keller's apartment in Evanston is empty, he said after hanging up. Neighbors say they haven't seen him in 2 days. Illinois PD found his car in long-term parking at O'Hare Airport, but there's no record of him boarding any flights. He knew we were closing in, Olivia said. He probably left Chicago as soon as I drove down here. He's been monitoring me somehow. My phone, my email, something. Rachel began running diagnostic scans on Olivia's devices, looking for spyware or tracking software. While she worked, Sheriff Grayson turned to Olivia with a careful expression. I need to ask you something, he said, and I want you to really think before you answer. Is there any place around here that was significant to you and Emma as children? Somewhere remote. Somewhere your father might have known about. Olivia closed her eyes, reaching back through the decades. She thought of the farmhouse, the school, the library where their mother had taken them every Saturday. The creek that ran through their property where they'd caught tadpoles in summer. And then another memory surfaced, one she hadn't thought about in years. The old Harrison place, she said slowly. It was about 5 miles from our farm, deep in the woods. An abandoned hunting cabin that had belonged to some family that moved away in the 70s. My father used to take us there, sometimes for picnics. He said he'd played there as a boy, that he knew the owners before they left. Grayson was already pulling up property records. The cabin was small, Olivia continued. Just one room with a stone fireplace. There were wooden steps leading down to a root cellar underneath. My father said it was dangerous, told us never to go down there alone. A root cellar would be the perfect place to hide someone, Rachel said quietly. Dark, soundproof, temperature controlled. The sheriff spun his laptop around. Property records show the Harrison cabin and surrounding 15 acres were sold in 1992, he said. 1 year before Emma disappeared. Who bought it? Olivia asked, though dread was already pooling in her stomach. The buyer was a company called Millbrook Holdings, LLC, Grayson said. He clicked through several more screens. The LLC was dissolved in 2000, but the original incorporation papers list 2 partners. He paused, then met Olivia's eyes. David Carter and James Keller. The room fell silent. Olivia felt the final pieces of the puzzle clicking into place with sickening clarity. Her father and Keller had been partners. They had purchased the property together a year before Emma disappeared, had created the perfect hiding place, had executed their plan with methodical precision. The special place, Olivia whispered. That's where he took her. That's where Emma has been all along. Sheriff Grayson was already on his radio, calling for backup units, alerting the tactical team. "We're going to that cabin now," he said. "Rachel, get the crime scene unit ready to roll." Olivia stood. "I'm coming with you." "This could be dangerous," the sheriff warned. "If Keller knows we're on to him, he might be there waiting." Olivia's voice was steady. "My sister has been alone in the dark for 33 years because I slept through the night she needed me most. I'm not letting her be alone anymore." 20 minutes later, a convoy of police vehicles wound through the back roads of Millbrook County toward the old Harrison property. Olivia rode with Sheriff Grayson, her hands clenched in her lap, her mind racing with terrible possibilities. What if Emma was still alive? What if she'd been kept in that cellar all these years, imprisoned, waiting for rescue that never came? The notebook had mentioned the special place where she would be safe for maybe even years. Had Keller and her father intended to keep Emma indefinitely? Or had something gone wrong? The convoy turned onto a narrow dirt road barely visible through overgrown brush. Trees pressed in from both sides, their bare branches scraping against the vehicles like skeletal fingers. The road hadn't been maintained in decades. It was rutted and washed out, forcing them to slow to a crawl. Finally, they reached a small clearing. The cabin stood in the center, more dilapidated than Olivia remembered. The roof had partially collapsed. Windows were broken. Vines had overtaken the walls, giving the structure an organic, almost living appearance. The tactical team deployed first, weapons drawn, moving toward the cabin in practice formation. Olivia watched from behind a patrol car, her heart hammering. Minutes passed with agonizing slowness as officers cleared the main structure. Finally, the team leader's voice crackled over the radio. "Building is clear. No occupants. But there's definitely recent activity here. Fresh tire tracks around back. Debris that's been moved." Sheriff Grayson nodded to Olivia. They approached the cabin together. Inside, the single room was nearly empty except for an old metal bed frame and a table covered with surveillance equipment. Monitors, recording devices, hard drives. "He's been using this place as a base of operations," Rachel said, carefully photographing the equipment. "We'll need to analyze all of this data." But Olivia's attention was drawn to the far corner, where a rug covered a section of the floor. She and the sheriff pulled it aside, revealing a wooden trapdoor secured with a heavy padlock. "The root cellar," Olivia said. An officer made short work of the padlock with bolt cutters. The trapdoor swung open with a groan of rusted hinges, revealing stone steps descending into darkness. The smell that wafted up was musty and damp, tinged with something else Olivia couldn't identify. Sheriff Grayson shone a powerful flashlight into the opening. "I'm going down," he said. "Everyone else stay here until I assess the situation." But Olivia was already moving toward the steps. "I told you," she said. "I'm not leaving her alone." They descended together, their flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness. The cellar was larger than Olivia had expected, extending beyond the footprint of the cabin above. The stone walls were slick with moisture. The air was cold enough to see their breath. As they reached the bottom of the steps, Olivia's flashlight beam swept across the space and caught something against the far wall. She gasped. There was a small cot with a thin mattress and blanket. Beside it, a shelf stocked with canned goods and bottled water. And on the wall above the cot, carved into the stone, were marks. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, organized into groups of 5. Someone had been counting days down here. The sheriff moved toward the cot, his flashlight revealing more details. A bucket in the corner, serving as a toilet. A stack of books, their covers warped from humidity. And on a small ledge carved into the stone wall, a photograph in a plastic frame. 2 10-year-old girls smiling at the camera. Olivia and Emma on their last birthday together. "She was here," Olivia whispered. Emma was here. But the cot was empty, the blanket neatly folded. There was no sign of Emma herself. No indication of where she might be now. From above, Rachel's voice called down. "Sheriff, we found something outside. You need to see this." They climbed back up and found Rachel standing near a cleared area behind the cabin. The ground had been recently disturbed, the earth darker and looser than the surrounding soil. Olivia's blood ran cold. "No," she said. "No, we're too late." "We don't know that," Grayson said, but his voice lacked conviction. He called for the forensics team to bring ground-penetrating radar and excavation tools. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the clearing, the team set up lights and began the careful process of excavating the disturbed earth. Olivia stood at a distance, Rachel beside her, both women silent as they watched. An hour passed, then two. The hole grew deeper. Then one of the technicians called out, "I've got something." Everyone froze. The technician carefully brushed away more soil, revealing fabric. A piece of cloth, blue and white, partially decomposed. Olivia recognized it immediately. The nightgown. The one Emma had been wearing the night she disappeared. But this wasn't the nightgown from the evidence bag at the police station. This was being worn by whoever lay in this grave. The excavation continued with painstaking slowness. More fabric emerged. Then bone. A ribcage, delicate and small. A child's remains. Olivia felt her knees buckle. Rachel caught her, held her upright as the full horror of the discovery became clear. They had found Emma. After 33 years, they had finally found her. But not alive. Not waiting to be rescued. Dead and buried behind the cabin where she'd been held prisoner. Her body hidden in the earth, while Olivia had spent 3 decades searching, hoping, believing her sister might still be out there somewhere. The medical examiner would need to confirm the identity, but Olivia knew, with absolute certainty. She could feel it in the place where Emma used to be. The twin connection that had never fully severed, despite the years and distance. Her sister was gone, had been gone perhaps since the very beginning. That night, back at the motel, Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Sheriff Grayson and Rachel had insisted on staying with her, afraid she might be in shock. The numbness was complete, a protective shell her mind had erected against unbearable pain. The preliminary examination at the scene had confirmed what everyone already knew. The skeletal remains were those of a child approximately 10 years old, buried for an extended period consistent with 3 decades. Dental records would provide definitive identification, but the nightgown and the location left no room for doubt. "Natalie," Rachel said gently, "I know this is devastating, but we need you to stay focused. James Keller is still out there, and he's dangerous. The surveillance equipment in the cabin suggests he's been monitoring law enforcement communications, which means he probably knows we found the grave. He might try to run, or he might come after me," Olivia finished, her voice flat. To silence the only witness. "You weren't a witness," Grayson said. "You were a child, and you were sleeping." But Gerald's words echoed in Olivia's mind. The person who knows what happened to Emma is Olivia. She was there. She knows more than she's telling. What if he'd been right? What if buried beneath years of trauma and protective amnesia, Olivia did remember something crucial about that night? "I want to try hypnotherapy," she said suddenly. Rachel and Grayson exchanged glances. "Are you sure?" Rachel asked. "Earlier you said you didn't want to risk false memories." "That was before we found my sister's body," Olivia said. "Before I knew for certain that someone I loved and trusted helped murder her. I need to know if I saw anything that night. I need to know if there's something locked in my memory that could help catch Keller." Sheriff Grayson nodded slowly. "I'll make some calls," he said. "There's a forensic psychologist in Indianapolis who works with traumatic memory recovery. She's testified in court before. She knows the protocols for ensuring any recovered memories are admissible as evidence." 3 hours later, Dr. Sarah Chun arrived at the motel. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a calm demeanor. "I want to be clear about what we're doing here," she said as she set up a recording device. "Hypnotherapy isn't magic. It can't retrieve memories that don't exist, and it won't force you to remember anything you're not ready to process. What it can do is help lower the barriers your conscious mind has erected against painful experiences." "I understand," Olivia said. "I've used similar techniques with my own patients." "Then you know the risks," Dr. Chin said. "You might remember things that are deeply disturbing. Are you prepared for that?" Olivia thought about Emma's remains being carefully excavated from cold earth. About the tally marks carved into stone walls. About 33 years of lies. "I'm prepared," she said. The session began with relaxation techniques. Dr. Chen's voice was soothing, guiding Olivia into a state of focused concentration. Time seemed to blur. The motel room faded until Olivia felt suspended in a place between sleep and waking. "I want you to go back to November 18th, 1993, Dr. Chen said softly. The night before Emma disappeared. You're in your bedroom, getting ready for bed. Can you see the room?" Olivia could see it with crystalline clarity. The yellow wallpaper with tiny flowers. The twin beds with their matching quilts. Emma sitting on her bed in her pink nightgown, brushing her hair and humming a song from a cartoon they'd watched that evening. "I see it," Olivia said, her voice sounding strange and distant to her own ears. "Good," Dr. Chen said. "Now move forward in time. You're in bed. Emma is in her bed. What happens next?" "Mom comes in to say goodnight," Olivia said. "She kisses us both, tells us she loves us, turns off the light. Then Emma and I talk for a while in the dark. We're playing twin telepathy. She's thinking of a number and I'm trying to guess it. I guess wrong 3 times. She laughs. Then we get quiet. I'm so tired from a field trip. I can feel myself falling asleep." "Stay with that moment," Dr. Chen said. "You're falling asleep, but you're not quite asleep yet. What do you hear?" Olivia's breathing quickened. Something was there at the edge of her awareness. Something she'd buried for 3 decades. "Footsteps in the hallway," she said. "Quiet footsteps. Do you recognize them?" Dr. Chen asked. "No." "Yes." "I don't know. They're familiar but wrong. Too careful. Too slow. What happens next?" "The door opens. Just a little. I should wake up all the way. Should see who it is. But I'm so tired. I keep my eyes closed. I think maybe it's Mom checking on us again. But it's not your mother." "No," Olivia said, her voice cracking. "It's not Mom. I can tell by the smell. Cigarettes and something else. Aftershave. Dad's aftershave." In the motel room, Olivia's hands clenched into fists, her body rigid with tension even as her conscious mind remained in the hypnotic state. "Your father is in the room," Dr. Chen said gently. "What does he do?" "He walks to Emma's bed," Olivia said. "He's whispering something. I can't hear the words, but Emma gets up. She doesn't argue. She just gets up and follows him out of the room. So quiet, like she's done this before." Tears were streaming down Olivia's face now. "I should have opened my eyes," she said. "I should have said something. But I just lie there pretending to be asleep. And I let him take her." "You were a child, Olivia," Dr. Chen said. "You didn't know what was happening. But I did know," Olivia said. "Some part of me knew something was wrong. That's why I kept my eyes closed. Because I was afraid to see." "Stay with the memory," Dr. Chen said. "Your father and Emma leave the room. Then what?" "I hear footsteps on the stairs going down," Olivia said. "I lie there for a long time, waiting for them to come back. But they don't. The house is quiet. So quiet. And then I hear a car engine outside. A car door closing. The engine getting quieter as it drives away." "Do you get up to look?" Dr. Chen asked. "No," Olivia said. "I pull the covers over my head and I make myself go back to sleep. Because if I'm asleep, then nothing bad is happening. If I'm asleep, then Emma is safe in her bed and Dad is in his room and everything is normal." "And in the morning," Dr. Chen prompted. "Mom wakes me up," Olivia said. "She's calling for Emma, but Emma isn't there. Mom is starting to panic. She asks me where Emma is, and I say I don't know. And I don't not really. Because I told myself it was a dream. That I imagined the footsteps and the door opening and Dad taking Emma away. I made myself believe it wasn't real." Her voice broke into a sob. "But it was real. It was real and I knew, and I said nothing. I let them think a stranger broke in. I let them search the fields and woods and question neighbors. I let everyone believe my father was a grieving parent when he was the one who took her. I knew, and I said nothing, and now she's dead." Dr. Chen gave a signal, and Sheriff Grayson stopped the recording. Slowly, carefully, she brought Olivia back to full consciousness. When Olivia opened her eyes, she found herself curled into a ball on the couch, her face wet with tears, her body shaking. Rachel immediately wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "You're okay," she said. "You're safe. It's over." But it wasn't over. Olivia had just remembered the truth she'd spent 33 years suppressing. She had witnessed her father taking Emma that night. She had heard the car leaving, and she had chosen to pretend it was a dream rather than face the unbearable reality that her own father was a monster. "Olivia, listen to me," Sheriff Grayson said, kneeling beside the couch. "You were 10 years old. You couldn't have known what your father was planning. You couldn't have stopped him. But I could have told the truth the next morning," Olivia said. "I could have said I saw him take her." Dr. Chen added gently, "And then what?" He would have denied it, explained it away somehow. You would have been traumatized even more deeply, forced to accuse your own father of a crime you didn't fully understand. Your mind protected you the only way it could, by hiding the memory until you were strong enough to face it. Before anyone could say more, Grayson's phone rang. He listened for a moment, his expression growing darker. "That was Illinois State Police," he said after hanging up. "They found James Keller's car abandoned at a rest stop outside Champaign. There was blood in the trunk. A lot of it. They're running DNA now. But based on the volume, someone is badly injured or dead." "Whose blood?" Rachel asked. "They don't know yet," the sheriff said. But security cameras at the rest stop show Keller arriving alone, but leaving with another person. A woman with blonde hair, mid-20s, wearing a blue jacket. Olivia felt ice flood her veins. Emma had had blonde hair, but she would be 43 now, not mid-20s. Unless, Rachel said slowly, she wasn't the only one. Unless there were others. The implications hung heavy in the air. If Keller and David Carter had abducted and imprisoned Emma, what was to stop them from doing it again? How many other children might have disappeared over the years? And if Keller had someone with him now, someone young enough to be another victim, then he wasn't finished. He was still hunting, still claiming prey. They needed to find him before he killed again. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of coordinated law enforcement activity. The FBI had been brought in given the possibility of multiple victims across state lines. The Millbrook County Sheriff's Department became the nerve center of a multi-state manhunt. Olivia remained at the station, unable to sleep, surviving on coffee and adrenaline, while teams of agents analyzed the surveillance equipment from the cabin and traced Keller's movements. What they discovered was worse than anyone had imagined. The hard drives from the cabin contained decades of footage. Grainy videos from the 90s, gradually improving in quality as technology advanced. The FBI's digital forensics team worked through the night, cataloging the contents. By dawn, they had identified at least 7 different girls who had been held in that cellar over the years. Emma was the first, her terrified face appearing in footage dated November 1993. She looked even smaller on camera than Olivia remembered, her eyes wide with confusion as someone led her down the stone steps into darkness. But there were others. A girl with dark hair in videos from 1998. Another blonde in 2003. A redhead in 2007. We're checking missing persons reports for all the years the footage spans, FBI agent Diana Morrison told Olivia. Morrison was a specialist in crimes against children, her expression professionally neutral, but her eyes betraying deep anger. We've already matched 3 of the girls to cold cases. Amber Reynolds disappeared from Fort Wayne in 1998. Jessica Tanner vanished from her backyard in Bloomington in 2003. Chloe Brooks was taken from a playground in Gary in 2007. Are they all? Olivia couldn't finish the question, couldn't say the word dead. We don't know yet, Morrison said. The videos show them alive in the cellar, but we don't have footage of what happened afterward. Ground-penetrating radar is being deployed across the property to search for additional grave sites. Olivia felt physically sick. The cabin property was large, 15 acres of dense woods. If there were more bodies buried there, it could take days or weeks to find them all. Sheriff Grayson appeared in the doorway. Olivia, We just got a hit on Keller's credit card, he said. He used it at a gas station outside Lafayette about 45 minutes ago. State police are responding now. We're setting up a command post closer to the action. I want you to come with us. If we apprehend him, you might be able to help identify the woman he's traveling with. The drive to Lafayette took just over an hour. By the time they arrived, local police had already secured the gas station and were reviewing security footage. The station manager, a nervous man in his 60s, confirmed that Keller had been there. Yeah, he was here about an hour ago, the manager said. Bought gas, some snacks, couple bottles of water. Paid cash, but his card didn't work right at the pump, so he had to come inside. That's when I saw the girl. Describe her, Morrison said. Blonde, maybe 23, 24, the manager said. Real thin, like she hadn't been eating right. She stayed in the car, a dark sedan, looked like a rental. But I could see her through the window. She looked scared, kept glancing around like she wanted to run. Did she try to communicate with you? Morrison asked. She mouthed something, the manager said. I couldn't tell what, but she looked desperate. I almost called the cops right then, but the guy came back before I could decide. He got in the car, and they left, heading west on Route 52. Morrison immediately relayed this information to tactical teams. Roadblocks were being set up. Helicopters deployed. The net was tightening. Olivia stood outside the gas station, watching the organized chaos of the manhunt, when her phone rang. The number was blocked, but something made her answer. Hello, she said. Natalie Brennan, a man's voice replied. Calm, familiar from somewhere in her buried childhood memories. James Keller, Olivia said, her hand shaking as she signaled frantically to Morrison. What do you want? I want you to understand something, Keller said. Your father and I, we weren't monsters. We were providing shelter to girls who needed protection. Girls who were lost, abandoned, neglected by their families. You kidnapped them, Olivia said. You imprisoned them. We saved them, Keller insisted, his voice taking on an edge of fanaticism. The world is full of people who would hurt children, abuse them, destroy their innocence. We kept them safe from all that. We gave them a place where they could be pure and protected. You kept them in a cellar in the dark, Olivia said. You terrorized them. My sister died because of you. There was a pause. When Keller spoke again, his voice had changed, becoming almost sad. Emma's death was an accident, he said. She got pneumonia. The cellar was too damp that winter. We tried to help her, but she was so weak. Your father was devastated. He truly loved her, Loved both of you. You were abusing her, Olivia said. He was protecting her from a cruel world, Keller replied. Just as I'm protecting Sarah now. Sarah, Olivia said. Is that the woman with you? Sarah is special, Keller said. Like Emma was. Like all of them were. And I won't let you take her from me the way you took the others. They're searching for us, aren't they? Setting roadblocks, sending helicopters. But they won't find us. I've been evading police for 30 years. I know how to disappear. Morrison was frantically signaling to keep him talking, to give the trace team more time. Where are the other girls? James, Olivia asked. Where are Amber and Jessica and Chloe? They're at peace, Keller said. All of them. When their time came, we gave them peace. You killed them, Olivia said. We released them from suffering, Keller said. This world is too dark, too painful for pure souls. We let them go before the world could corrupt them. The religious undertone in his voice sent chills down Olivia's spine. Keller had constructed an elaborate delusion to justify his crimes. Convinced himself he was a savior rather than a predator. What about my father? Olivia asked. Did he believe all this too? Thomas understood the mission, Keller said. He was weak sometimes, felt guilt he shouldn't have felt. But he knew we were doing important work. When he got sick, when the cancer took him, he made me promise to continue, to keep finding the lost ones and giving them sanctuary. He's dead, James, Olivia said. The mission is over. Let Sarah go. Turn yourself in. Keller laughed, a cold sound devoid of real humor. You still don't understand, he said. The mission never ends. There will always be children who need saving, who need protection from people like you. People like me, Olivia asked. People who want to expose them to the world's cruelty, Keller said. People who would rather see them suffer in plain sight than safe in the darkness. He paused. You failed Emma, Natalie. You knew I was taking her that night, and you did nothing. You could have saved her, and you chose not to. That makes you complicit in everything that happened after. The accusation hit like a physical blow, echoing Olivia's own guilt. I was 10 years old, she said. Old enough to know, Keller replied. Old enough to speak. But you stayed silent. And because of that silence, Emma spent her final weeks in that cellar crying for a sister who abandoned her. Morrison was mouthing words, showing Olivia a note. Keep him talking. We've got his location. Where did you bury the others? Olivia asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Their families deserve to know. They're already home, Keller said. The earth is mother to us all. They're at peace in the soil, becoming part of something larger than themselves. James, please, Olivia said. I have to go now, Keller interrupted. The helicopters are getting close. But I want you to remember something. You and I were not so different. We both failed the girls we were supposed to protect. We both carry that guilt. The only difference is I tried to make amends by saving others. What have you done except run away from your responsibility? The line went dead. Morrison was already on her radio, coordinating with tactical teams. We've got him, she said. GPS puts him on County Road 850, about 15 miles northwest of here. All units converge on that location. They ran for the vehicles, the convoy racing through rural Indiana, with sirens wailing. Olivia's mind reeled from the conversation, from Keller's twisted justification of his crimes, from his assertion that she bore responsibility for Emma's death. Part of her wanted to reject it entirely, to recognize it as the manipulation of a sociopath. But another part, the part that had suppressed her memories for 33 years, whispered that he was right. She had known something was wrong that night. She had heard her father take Emma, and she had chosen the comfort of denial over the terror of truth. The convoy reached County Road 850 to find Keller's rental car pulled over on the shoulder, the driver's door hanging open, the interior empty. Tactical teams swept the surrounding area, open farmland on one side, a thin strip of woods on the other, while K-9 units tried to pick up a scent. He can't have gotten far on foot, Sheriff Grayson said, especially not with someone he's holding against her will. But 20 minutes of searching yielded nothing. Keller and the woman he called Sarah had vanished into the landscape as if they'd never been there. Then one of the K-9 officers called out from the tree-line, I've got something. They found Sarah propped against a tree, her wrists bound with zip ties, a gag in her mouth. She was conscious, but clearly in shock, her eyes unfocused, her skin pale. Paramedics rushed to her side, while Morrison carefully removed the gag. Sarah, can you hear me? Morrison asked. You're safe now. Where did he go? The young woman's voice was barely a whisper. The farm, she said. He said he was going to the farm where it all started, where the first one is buried. Olivia felt ice flood her veins. The Carter farmhouse, she said. He's going back to where Emma was taken. They were already running for the vehicles when Sarah called out, her voice stronger now, urgent with terror. He said he's going to finish what your father started, she said. He said if he can't save any more girls, then he'll make sure no one can find the ones he already saved. He's going to burn it all down. In the early hours of November 19, 1993, in the small farming community of Millbrook, Indiana, 10-year-old Emma Carter vanished from her bedroom while her identical twin sister slept just 6 feet away in the same room. There was no scream, no struggle, no sign of forced entry. When their mother entered the room that morning to wake the girls for school, she found only one daughter. Emma's bed was empty, the covers pulled back as if she had simply gotten up to use the bathroom. But Emma was gone, and she would remain gone for the next 33 years. The investigation that followed consumed the entire town. Search parties combed through endless cornfields. Bloodhounds tracked scents that led nowhere. The FBI set up a command center in the high school gymnasium. Emma's face appeared on milk cartons, on television screens, on billboards across the Midwest. Her parents, David and Sarah Carter, held press conference after press conference, begging whoever had taken their daughter to bring her home. But no ransom demand ever came. No body was ever found. No credible leads ever emerged. It was as if Emma had simply evaporated into the cold November night. Her twin sister, Olivia, told investigators she had heard nothing. She had been exhausted from a school field trip to a pumpkin patch, had fallen asleep around 9 o'clock, and hadn't woken until her mother's screams the next morning. The police questioned her gently, repeatedly, searching for any detail she might have forgotten. But there was nothing. Olivia had slept through whatever happened to her sister, and that guilt would haunt her for the next 3 decades. The Carter farmhouse stood empty for years after the family finally moved away, unable to bear living in the place where they had lost Emma. It became a local landmark of tragedy, a place teenagers dared each other to approach on Halloween nights, a reminder that terrible things could happen even in quiet towns where everyone knew everyone. The white paint peeled away. The roof began to sag. Vines crept up the walls. And inside, in the bedroom where 2 10-year-old girls once whispered to each other after lights out, dust settled over everything like a shroud. In January 2026, the property was finally sold to a developer planning to build new houses on the land. A demolition crew arrived to tear down the old farmhouse. They expected a routine job, maybe 3 or 4 days to reduce the structure to rubble. What they found instead, hidden beneath the floorboards of the twins' childhood bedroom, would prove that Emma Carter had never left that house. That the most dangerous predator had been hiding in plain sight all along. And that sometimes the person sleeping 6 feet away knows more than they remember. If you're drawn to cold cases that finally reveal their secrets, to mysteries that span decades before the truth emerges, then you need to subscribe to Ultimate Crime Stories. We bring you the most compelling true crime investigations, the cases that haunt us, the stories that demand to be told. Hit that subscribe button now, because what we're about to uncover will stay with you long after this story ends. 33 years after Emma Carter disappeared, Dr. Olivia Carter sat in her Chicago apartment, staring at her phone. She was 43 years old now, a successful clinical psychologist with a corner office and a full client list. She had spent 2 decades helping other people process their trauma, while carefully avoiding her own. She had built a life, found a partner, created a version of herself that could function despite the gaping hole where her twin sister used to be. But she had never truly moved forward. How could she? Half of her was missing. The call had come from Sheriff Thomas Grayson, the same man who had led the investigation in 1993. His voice on the phone had been different than she remembered, weighted with something she couldn't quite identify. Age maybe, or knowledge. He had asked her to come back to Millbrook. Said the demolition crew had found something at the old farmhouse. Something she needed to see. When Olivia pressed him for details, he had been frustratingly vague. "This isn't something I can discuss over the phone," he'd said. "But Olivia, after all these years, we might finally have answers about Emma." The drive from Chicago to Millbrook took just over 4 hours. Olivia made it in 3.5, her foot heavy on the accelerator, her mind racing faster than the car. What could they have found? A body? Evidence of who had taken Emma? Some clue that had been hidden for 3 decades? She tried to prepare herself for the worst, but the truth was she had been preparing for the worst since she was 10 years old. The worst had already happened. Everything since had just been learning to live with it. The farmhouse looked exactly as she remembered it and nothing like it at the same time. The white 2-story structure had been her entire world once, the place where she and Emma had played hide and seek in the cornfields, where they had built snow forts in winter, where they had spent countless nights in their shared bedroom playing their favorite game, twin telepathy, trying to send thoughts to each other across the darkness. Now it stood like a skeleton against the gray January sky, hollowed out by time and neglect, its windows like empty eye sockets, staring at nothing. Sheriff Grayson's patrol car was parked in the gravel driveway alongside construction vehicles and what appeared to be a crime scene investigation van. Yellow police tape cordoned off the entire property. Olivia's hands were shaking as she got out of her car. The sheriff emerged from the house before she reached the porch. He was older now, his hair completely gray, deep lines carved into his face. But his eyes were still sharp, still assessing, still carrying the weight of promises he had made and failed to keep. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. The demolition crew was removing floorboards in the upstairs bedrooms, he said. Your old room, where you and Emma slept. They found a space beneath the floor. A hidden crawl space that wasn't on any of the original building plans. Olivia felt her heart begin to race. And inside that space, the sheriff continued, we found items. Personal belongings. A backpack. Clothing. Shoes. All belonging to a child. We need you to identify them. But Olivia, there's something else. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about the night Emma disappeared. The inside of the farmhouse smelled of mold and decay. The wallpaper hung in strips from the walls. The floorboards were warped and buckled. Every step sent up small clouds of dust that caught in the cold light filtering through broken windows. Olivia followed Sheriff Grayson up the stairs, each creak of the wood awakening memories she had spent years trying to bury. Their bedroom was at the end of the hallway. The door stood open. Work lights had been set up inside, illuminating what had once been her sanctuary. The twin beds were gone, removed years ago, but Olivia could see exactly where they had been positioned. Emma's bed by the window, catching the morning sun. Her own against the opposite wall, close enough that they could whisper to each other after their mother turned out the lights. A section of the floor had been removed near where Emma's bed had stood, exposing the wooden framework beneath. A woman in her 30s with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail knelt beside the opening, carefully photographing something Olivia couldn't yet see. The Carter farmhouse stood silhouetted against the late afternoon sky, exactly as Olivia had left it days ago. A decaying monument to secrets and suffering. But now, as the convoy approached down the gravel driveway, Olivia could see smoke beginning to curl from the second-floor windows. Keller was already inside, already setting fires that would destroy whatever evidence remained in that cursed building. Tactical team deploy, Morrison commanded. Fire department is en route, ETA 6 minutes. We need to secure the suspect and get out before the structure becomes unstable. Olivia started to exit the vehicle, but Morrison put a hand on her arm. You stay here, she said. This is an active tactical situation. He's destroying evidence, Olivia said. My sister's room, the crawl space, everything that could tell us what really happened. It's all going to burn. We have photographs, measurements, samples, Morrison replied. The important evidence is already secured. But Olivia shook her head. You don't understand. Emma's letter. She was going to name her abuser. He is, and then nothing. What if there's something else up there? Another letter, another note that survived. What if she left more clues? Before Morrison could respond, gunfire erupted from inside the farmhouse. The tactical team took cover behind vehicles, returning fire in controlled bursts. Through the broken windows, flames spread rapidly, consuming the old dry wood with terrifying speed. Sheriff Grayson spoke urgently into his radio. Suspect is armed and barricaded. We need to contain him until fire department arrives. Do not let him escape the perimeter. More gunshots rang out. Then Keller's voice, amplified somehow, echoing across the property. You want to know the truth, Natalie? You want to know what really happened to all those girls? Olivia grabbed a police radio. I'm here, James, she said. Talk to me. Your father kept records, Keller said. Detailed records of every girl, every day. He documented everything in a journal he kept hidden in that crawl space. All the names, all the dates, all the things we did to keep them safe. It's up there right now, burning to ash. And with it goes the only chance you'll ever have of finding where we buried the others. Morrison's face had gone pale. He's bluffing, she said. We searched that crawl space thoroughly. But Olivia was remembering. The crawl space was larger than just the section under their bedroom. What if it extended further, into walls, into spaces the investigators hadn't fully explored? "Let me go in," she said. "Let me talk to him face to face. I can buy time for the fire department to arrive." "Absolutely not," Morrison said. "He's armed and unstable. He'll kill you." "He's had multiple chances to kill me and hasn't," Olivia said. "He wants something from me. Absolution. Understanding. I don't know what. But I can use that. I can keep him talking." Sheriff Grayson looked torn, but finally nodded. "Wire her up," he said. "Give her a vest. And the moment things go sideways, we pull her out." 5 minutes later, Olivia approached the farmhouse, wearing a bulletproof vest and a concealed microphone, her hands raised to show she was unarmed. "James," she called out. "I'm coming in. Don't shoot. Just you." Keller's voice responded. "Anyone else tries to enter, I'll detonate the accelerants I've placed throughout the house. We'll all burn together." Olivia climbed the sagging porch steps, her heart hammering. The front door stood open, smoke billowing out in choking clouds. She pulled her shirt up over her nose and mouth and stepped inside. The interior was an inferno in slow motion. Flames crawled across the walls, consuming decades of wallpaper and paint. The heat was overwhelming, making it hard to breathe, hard to think. Through the smoke, she could see a figure on the stairs. James Keller, older now than in his personnel photo, his face weathered and hard, a handgun held loosely at his side. "You came," he said, almost surprised. "I thought you'd let it all burn. Let the secrets die here." "Where's the journal?" Olivia asked, coughing through the smoke. "Where did my father hide it?" "Behind the false panel in the crawl space," Keller said. "We built a second hiding space, smaller, where we kept our most precious records. Your investigators never found it because they never looked." He gestured toward the stairs. "It's still there. You could save it if you're fast enough." He paused. "Or you could save me instead. Choose." Olivia stared at him, understanding the test he was proposing. Save the evidence that could bring closure to families of missing girls, or save the man who had helped destroy those girls' lives. "Why did you do it?" she asked, stalling. "Why did you help my father hurt all those children?" Keller's expression shifted, becoming almost nostalgic. "I met your father when I was still in patrol," he said. "Responded to a call at your farmhouse. Nothing serious, just a broken window. But while I was there, I saw how he looked at you and Emma. I recognized that look. I'd seen it in my own father's eyes when I was young." "Your father abused you," Olivia said quietly. "He called it love," Keller said. "Discipline. Protection from a world that would corrupt me. And maybe he was right, because I grew up understanding that some of us are different. We see the purity in children that others miss. We want to preserve it, keep it safe from contamination." "You're describing pedophilia," Olivia said bluntly. "What you and my father felt wasn't love. It was sickness." Keller's face darkened. "We never touched them," he said. "Not in that way. We kept them safe, kept them pure. That was the whole point." "Then why hide them?" Olivia challenged. "Why the crawl space, the cellar, the threats?" "Because the world wouldn't understand," Keller said. "People would see evil where there was only protection. Your father knew that. If anyone found out about our sanctuary, they would tear it down, expose the girls to the very corruption we were shielding them from." The fire was spreading faster now, flames licking at the staircase, the ceiling beginning to groan and buckle. Olivia knew she had minutes at most before the entire structure collapsed. "What happened to Emma?" she asked. "Tell me the truth about how she died." Keller's eyes grew distant. "She got sick that first winter," he said. "Pneumonia, like I told you. But it was more than that. She stopped eating, stopped talking. She just faded, like she decided to leave us. Your father tried everything. Medicine, better blankets, more food. But she didn't want to be saved. She wanted to be with you. And when she realized that would never happen, she gave up. She died of a broken heart," Olivia whispered. "Because you stole her from her family." "We gave her sanctuary," Keller insisted. "You gave her a tomb," Olivia said. You murdered her slowly, day by day, by keeping her from everyone who loved her. She took a step closer, seeing him clearly through the smoke. And you know it. That's why you've been running all these years. That's why you can't stop taking new girls. You're trying to save one, just one, to prove to yourself that what you did wasn't evil. But they all end the same way, don't they? They all fade away in the darkness. Behind Olivia, she could hear the tactical team positioning at windows, hear Sheriff Grayson's voice in her earpiece telling her to get out, that the house was about to collapse. But she couldn't leave. Not yet. Not without the journal that might hold the key to finding the other missing girls. Where exactly is the false panel? She demanded. Tell me, and I'll get the journal out before the fire reaches it. Those families deserve to know what happened to their daughters. Keller laughed, a broken sound. You think you're better than me, he said. You think your silence as a child is different from my actions as an adult? We're both guilty, Natalie. We both let Emma die. Maybe you're right, Olivia said quietly. Maybe I do share the guilt. But the difference is I'm trying to make amends. I'm trying to bring those girls home, to give their families peace. What are you doing except running from the consequences of your choices? For a long moment, Keller stared at her, the gun wavering in his hand. Then, with sudden decision, he raised the weapon not toward Olivia, but toward his own head. The panel is behind the false wall on the west side of the crawl space, he said. 3 feet from the corner. There's a latch hidden in the floorboard seam. Tell the families I'm sorry. Tell them we thought we were saving their daughters. James, don't, Olivia started to say. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Keller's body crumpled on the stairs as the tactical team stormed in, pulling Olivia back toward the door. She fought against them, screaming about the journal, about the hidden panel, but they were already dragging her out of the burning building. She hit the cold January air gasping, her lungs burning from smoke inhalation. Paramedics swarmed around her, putting an oxygen mask over her face, checking her for injuries. Through the chaos, she watched the farmhouse burn. Flames now shooting through the roof, the structure groaning its final death throes. The journal, she tried to say through the oxygen mask. The crawl space. We can't send anyone back in, Sheriff Grayson said, kneeling beside her. The building is about to collapse. I'm sorry, Olivia, but whatever was in there is gone now. As if to punctuate his words, a thunderous crash echoed across the property as the second floor gave way, collapsing into the first in an explosion of sparks and flame. The farmhouse where Olivia had lived the first 10 years of her life, where her sister had been taken and her childhood had ended, where decades of secrets had been buried, all of it was being reduced to ash and rubble. Olivia closed her eyes, tears streaming down her smoke-stained face. They had found Emma's body. They had stopped Keller from taking any more victims. They had saved Sarah from whatever fate Keller had planned for her. But the journal, with its potential answers about the other missing girls, was lost forever in the flames. Unless Olivia's eyes snapped open. The surveillance equipment, she said. The hard drives from the cabin. If my father documented everything, wouldn't he have recorded it? Wouldn't there be more footage than what you've already reviewed? Morrison was suddenly beside her, her expression sharp with understanding. You're right, she said. We've only gone through about 40% of the files. The rest could contain exactly what we need. As the farmhouse collapsed into a pile of burning rubble, as fire crews arrived too late to save anything but the scorched foundation, Olivia allowed herself a small measure of hope. The building was gone, but the truth might still be recoverable. The girls might still be found. The families might still get their answers. It wasn't justice. Nothing could truly be justice for what had been done to Emma and the others. But it was something. It was an ending, and perhaps a beginning of healing. 6 months later, Olivia stood in a cemetery on a bright summer morning, surrounded by 7 headstones arranged in a semicircle around a flowering dogwood tree. Each stone bore the name of a girl who had been taken, held, and ultimately laid to rest in unmarked graves around Millbrook County. The FBI's analysis of David Carter's surveillance footage had provided what the journal could not. detailed documentation of each victim, including locations where their remains had been buried. Over the course of 3 months, forensic teams had carefully excavated 7 grave sites, bringing home daughters who had been missing for decades. Emma and Carter, 1983 to 1993. Beloved daughter and sister. Amber Reynolds, 1988 to 1998. Jessica Tanner, 1993 to 2003. Chloe Brooks, 1997 to 2007. And 3 others whose names Olivia now knew by heart. Madison Pierce, Emily Hartwell, Sarah Jane Kowalski. All children. All taken too soon. All buried in secret shame by men who convinced themselves they were saviors rather than murderers. The 8th girl, the Sarah that Keller had abducted in his final desperate act, had survived. She was receiving intensive therapy at a facility in Indianapolis, slowly recovering from the trauma of her captivity. Her real name was Bethany Morrison, and she'd been missing from a mall parking lot in Terre Haute for 3 weeks before Keller's death had freed her. She was one of the few who had escaped the fate Keller and David Carter had planned for her. Olivia placed a bouquet of wildflowers at Emma's headstone, the same kinds of flowers they used to pick together in the fields around their farmhouse. "I'm sorry I didn't save you," she whispered. "I'm sorry I didn't wake up that night, didn't speak up the next morning. I've spent my whole life running from the guilt, and I finally understand that I'll carry it forever. But I'm not running anymore." Behind her, she heard footsteps. Marcus approached, having given her space for the private moment. He'd stood by her through the investigation, the revelations about her father, the therapy she was now receiving to process the recovered memories and the trauma they contained. "Ready?" he asked gently. Olivia nodded. They had one more stop to make today. The Millbrook Memory Care Facility was a pleasant building with gardens and wide windows letting in natural light. Olivia's mother, Sarah Carter, sat in the common room working on a jigsaw puzzle. At 68, early-onset Alzheimer's had stolen most of her memories, including the decades of grief and searching that had defined her life after Emma's disappearance. In some ways, Olivia thought it was a mercy. Her mother would never have to know the truth about David, about the husband she'd loved and trusted. She would never have to carry the weight of knowing that the man who shared her bed had been a monster who murdered their daughter. "Mom," Olivia said, sitting beside her. "How's the puzzle coming?" Sarah looked up with a vague smile. "Do I know you, dear?" she asked. "I'm Olivia, your daughter," Olivia said. "Oh, how nice," Sarah said. "I had a daughter once. 2 daughters, I think. Or was it 1? I can't quite remember." "It was 2, Olivia said, taking her mother's hand. "Me and Emma. And we both love you very much." They sat together for an hour, Sarah occasionally recognizing Olivia in brief flashes of clarity before the fog rolled back in. When it was time to leave, Olivia kissed her mother's forehead and whispered goodbye, knowing Sarah wouldn't remember the visit by evening. Outside the facility, Marcus took Olivia's hand. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "I don't know," Olivia admitted. "Some days I think I'm healing. Other days I feel like I'm right back in that bedroom, listening to my father take Emma away and doing nothing to stop him." "You were 10 years old," Marcus said. "I know," Olivia replied. "Intellectually, I know. Dr. Chun has helped me understand the trauma response, the dissociation, all of it. But the guilt doesn't just disappear because I understand it." "Maybe it's not supposed to disappear," Marcus said. "Maybe you just learn to carry it differently." They walked to the parking lot in silence. "The book is being published next month," Olivia said. "The editor wants to do a press tour, interviews, the whole thing." She had spent the last 6 months writing a memoir about the investigation, the recovered memories, and the 7 girls who had been found. It was her way of honoring Emma and the others, of ensuring their stories weren't forgotten. "Are you sure you're ready for that kind of public scrutiny?" Marcus asked. "No," Olivia said, "but I'm doing it anyway. Those girls deserve to have their stories told. Their families deserve to have people know what happened, how 2 men's delusions and sickness destroyed so many lives." As they drove back toward Chicago, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from Agent Morrison. The message included a link to a news article. father of missing girl, comes forward after reading about Carter case. Olivia opened the link and read about a man in Ohio who had contacted the FBI after seeing coverage of the Millbrook investigation. His daughter had vanished in 1995 from a rest stop, and he'd always suspected she'd been taken by someone she knew, someone who had gained her trust. He wanted the FBI to review his case, to see if there might be a connection to other predators operating with similar methods. "It's happening," Olivia said quietly. "Other families are coming forward. Other cold cases are being reopened." "Is that a good thing?" Marcus asked. "I don't know," Olivia said. "It means more pain, more families learning terrible truths about people they trusted. But it also means justice, accountability, maybe closure. I think it's necessary, even if it's not good." That night, back in their Chicago apartment, Olivia stood at the window looking out over the city lights. Somewhere out there, other families were living with the absence of missing children, searching for answers that might never come. Other predators were hiding behind masks of respectability, choosing their next victims. The world was full of darkness and danger, just as James Keller had said. But it was also full of people who refused to give up, who kept searching, who fought to bring the missing home and the guilty to justice. Olivia placed her hand against the window glass, feeling the cool surface against her palm. "I found you, Emma," she whispered to the night. "I finally found you. And I promise, I'll make sure the world knows what happened to you. I'll make sure you're never forgotten." In the reflection of the window, she thought she saw a flicker of movement, a shadow that might have been a 10-year-old girl with blonde hair and a bright smile. But when Olivia turned, the apartment was empty except for Marcus sleeping in the bedroom and the quiet hum of the city beyond the walls. She was alone, as she'd been for 33 years. But somehow the loneliness felt different now. Less like abandonment and more like companionship with a ghost who had waited patiently to be found, to be brought home, to finally rest. Tomorrow, Emma's final letters would arrive. The ones found in the metal box, damaged by fire, but still readable. Tomorrow, she would read her sister's last words and carry them forward into whatever came next. But tonight, she would simply remember two 10-year-old girls playing twin telepathy in the darkness, believing they would always be together, believing in a world where promises were kept and monsters didn't hide in plain sight. It had been a beautiful dream while it lasted. If you've stayed with us through this entire journey, through every revelation and heartbreak, then you understand why stories like these matter. Why we can't look away from the darkness, even when it's easier to pretend it doesn't exist. These aren't just cases. They're real people, real families, real pain that spans decades. Subscribe to Ultimate Crime Stories for more investigations that demand to be told, for more mysteries that reveal uncomfortable truths about the world we live in. Hit that subscribe button now and join us as we continue to bring light to the darkest corners, as we continue to give voice to those who can no longer speak for themselves. Because every victim deserves to be remembered. Every family deserves answers. And every story deserves to be heard.